one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico and the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. I acknowledge that this county building in Santa Fe County is on the original homeland of the Tewa people, which is also known as Ogapowoge Owenge, White Shell Watering Place. And next we will have a moment of reflection. Welcome, Gina.
Of our decisions, and in the best interest of our community, we take a moment of silence.
Are there any comments or moments from anyone on the dais? Okay, I just want to once again acknowledge all of the shootings that have been happening throughout the United States and recognize that we as a local government are limited by our control, but I strongly believe that personally AK-1547s, any weapon as such of mass destruction should be eliminated. And I want to take a moment of silence for those people who have been who have perished. Thank you. Okay, please take your seats. Next, we will go to approval of the agenda. Manager Schaefer.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The initial agenda for today's meeting was posted on Tuesday, April 4th at approximately 5:25 p.m., and the amended agenda was posted on Friday, April 7th at approximately 3:50 p.m. In terms of what changed between the initial agenda and the amended agenda, there was additional set of meeting minutes that were added for the March 28, 2023 Board of County Commissioner meeting minutes. And in addition, that was item 2B. On the consent agenda, as item 4D, there was a request for a letter of support for the Environmental Justice Collaborative Problem-Solving Project led by EarthCare. That was added to the consent agenda, item 4D. In addition to those published changes, I would respectfully request that the board indulge us with a miscellaneous update from the county manager as soon as we approve the agenda, which will really be led by our county attorney, Jeff Young, relative to potential public hearing dates for the ordinance that would extend the boundaries of the Agua Fria traditional historic community. Be happy to answer any questions, Madam Chair.
Any comments?
Just, Madam Chair, move to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Hamilton, a second by Commissioner Green. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, next we will go on to miscellaneous items from the county manager and county attorney.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Due to a legal noticing issue, the publication of title and general summary for the proposed ordinance on Agua Fria Traditional Historic Community is scheduled to run tomorrow in the Albuquerque Journal, not today as originally planned. And so while this publication is only one day, it does mean that the public hearing on the proposed ordinance will need to be pushed to another date to allow at least 2 weeks between the notice and the public hearing is required by state law. I would suggest scheduling a special meeting on or before May 1st so that if the ordinance were to be approved, the effective date of the ordinance would be prior to the expiration of the short-term rental application deadline, which is June 1st, 2023. Finally, if the BCC were to approve the ordinance, for example, on May 1st, short-term rental applicants could begin submitting applications for consideration on or after the effective date of the ordinance, which would be May 31st, just to clarify that point. But again, want to apologize for the administrative error here and any inconvenience this may have caused. And, we absolutely want to ensure that legal noticing is timely and in accordance with state law. So I'd stand by for any questions on those issues, but would ask for consideration of another meeting, a public hearing to be scheduled at a later date.
Thank you, Jeff. So I would like to suggest May 1st at 3 p.m. So I would like everyone to check their calendars. Yes, Commissioner Hamilton.
So I have no problem with that date, but for clarity, we could have it anytime, we could have it on, there are a few days before May 1st, we could have it. I assume maybe those don't work for a bunch of people that you've checked with already? Because like even Friday the 28th might give a few extra days.
I'm out of town.
My apologies. Okay, great.
I'm
I
out
just
of
was checking
town
because I wasn't.
from the afternoon of May 26th, April 26th
Yeah.
to April 28th.
Got it, no worries. So it's good.
So you cannot make it May 1st anytime? Oh, okay, great. Okay, in the afternoon, 3 o'clock.
Yes, that's good with me.
Okay, Commissioner Bustamante? Commissioner Hughes?
Yep, that's fine.
Commissioner Green?
I can be there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we can please notice the meeting immediately for May 1st at 3 p.m. Okay,
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll do that, and the notice will actually run tomorrow with the May 1st date in there, so thank you.
okay. Please make sure it happens. Okay, thank you. Moving on, we will move on to 2A, request approval of March 14th, 2022 Board of County Commission meeting minutes. Excuse me, I apologize. The only thing, as far as I got on those minutes, were that it didn't have the land acknowledgement on it, and it might not have been on the agenda, but I might have done the land acknowledgement, I believe, on May 14th. Oh, it is here, but it's not listed as a item number. I apologize. Okay, okay. That's great. I wasn't sure about that. What is the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the minutes from the March 14th board meeting.
And I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Bustamante, a second by Commissioner Hughes. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, those minutes are now approved. Next, we'll go to request approval of the March 28th, 2023 Board of County Commission meeting minutes.
Madam Chair, I move to approve.
Okay.
A second?
I have a motion by Commissioner Hughes, a second by Commissioner Hamilton. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. March 28th meetings are approved. Next, we'll go on to consideration of proclamation, commission resolutions, and recognition action item. So this is request approval of a proclamation proclaiming April 22nd, 2023 as Earth Day. Myself and Commissioner Hughes have brought this resolution forward. Commissioner Hughes, would you like to read this with me? So we have been celebrating Earth Day for quite some time at the county, since I think I took office. And we have celebrated the 50th anniversary of Earth Day and many other events. And now, this year, the Earth Day will be held at the Santa Fe County Fairgrounds, and we'll be doing a rain garden at the fairgrounds, which I think is very exciting. I know allergy season is upon us. So, would you like to begin, Commissioner Hughes, or would you like to say a few words, please?
Well, sure. I think that this is very important, and I think especially given the fact that the state legislature and the governor have failed so miserably to do anything about the environment this year, it's really up to us as citizens and the county to move ahead as best we can. And Earth Day is, a symbolic but an important part of that effort. So do you want me to just read, we're going to skip paragraphs, or how far do you want me to read?
Yeah, we can go back and forth.
Okay, I will start then. Whereas the first Earth Day was celebrated on April 22nd, 1970 in the United States, and is commemorated annually to celebrate the beauty of our planet, recommit to action that promote a healthy environment and to maintain a peaceful, just, and sustainable world. And
whereas in July 2022, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution declaring that all people of the earth, regardless of race, gender, age, income, sexual orientation, or national origins, have a right to a healthy environment. And
whereas humankind is facing tremendous global challenges affecting every community, including degradation of ecosystems, mass extinction of species, and climate change. And
whereas Santa Fe County and our citizens, organizations, and businesses have shown dedicated leadership on environmental concerns by addressing issues such as energy production and use, greenhouse gas emission reduction, low emission transportation, water conservation, farmland conservation, urban forest and habitat protection, waste prevention, and environmental equity. And
whereas the Santa Fe County Board of County Commissioners approved resolution number 2020-22 on February 25th, 2020, which acknowledged April 22nd, 2020 as the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, and requested that county staff carry out and cultivate climate actions in celebration of this anniversary to include planting events in each county district. And
whereas after the 2020 Earth Day planning event were canceled due to COVID-19 pandemic, staff reconvened in 2021 and 2022 and hosted Earth Day events in each county district with a focus on beautifying our public housing and community gathering spaces, increased habitat resilience, improving access to healthy green spaces, and expanding access to fresh fruits and shade. And
whereas the county's Earth Day team, led by Sustainability Manager Jacqueline Beam, is switching it up this year and hosting one special educational event on Earth Day, Saturday, April 22nd, 2023, at the Santa Fe County Fairgrounds. From 9 a.m. to noon, visitors can learn from rainwater harvesting experts, help put the finishing touches on a new rain garden, get answers to their gardening questions from master gardeners, enjoy live music, and learn about local sustainability initiatives. And
whereas we acknowledge that to meet the goals of Earth Day, to raise awareness, trigger potential action, to protect our environment, and help guide local decision-making, the board will provide leadership, employ the expertise and talents of our community, engage the hearts and minds of our citizens.
Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Board of County Commissioners of Santa Fe County, do hereby proclaim the 22nd of April 2023 as Earth Day.
So, in 2017, this board adopted a resolution supporting the Paris Accord of 2015, and I believe the state has also adopted that resolution. It is disappointing to not see them following their own resolution, and recognizing the importance of the climate emergency and how impactful climate change is upon us. The United Nations says that the time to act is now, and so I am grateful that Santa Fe County has proclaimed and has dedicated itself to improving the lives of citizens through climate action in Santa Fe County. Are there any other comments from the board? Commissioner Hamilton?
Well, there's not much more to say about the importance of the environment and the climate emergency than what you guys have, but it makes this one of the things we do that's just really easy to at least feel good about, that we're trying to take action and trying to then behave consistently with the words that we're putting out there, and which I also think is very important.
Commissioner Green?
I support Earth Day and all of its intent and initiatives. I just wish we had more initiatives behind it. So it should be our challenge to have at every meeting something more to add to our capacity to be a sustainable planet. But thank you for putting this forward.
I think many of our resolutions, especially leading by example, falls right into that meaning that, you know, if the state's not going to do it, we can do it. And we'll do the best that we can to make sure that we are following our words, as Commissioner Hamilton said. And with that, I move to approve this proclamation.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And so therefore, this is approved, adopted, and passed on this 11th day of April 2023. And we look forward to seeing everyone at our Earth Day event at the fairgrounds. Part of the reason I asked Commissioner Hughes to sponsor this resolution with me was because it's in his district. And I felt that it was important that he had the opportunity to support this important proclamation.
Thank you.
Okay, so onward. Next, we'll go on to the consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda that people would like to have pulled, or what's the pleasure of the board? Commissioner Hamilton?
If nobody's pulling anything, I would move to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Next, we will go on to, I need resolution numbers, thank you.
Madam Chair, item 4B is resolution number 2023-35, and item 4C is resolution number 2023-36.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll go on to appointments and reappointments. Request appointments of members to the County Open Trails Park and Advisory Committee Growth Management Department. Adeline Murphy. Welcome, Adeline. Nice to see you.
Hi, Madam Chair, Commissioners, good afternoon. My name is Adeline Murphy, Open Space and Trails Planning Team Leader, and I'm here today to request the appointment of members to the County Lands Open Trails and Parks Advisory Committee, also known as COLTPAC. COLTPAC has 3 vacant positions following the completion of the terms of 3 members, 1 vacancy in District 3 and 2 at-large vacancies. In February of this year, 3 COLTPAC members, Ruben Cedeno in District 3, Linda Siegel at large, and Jean Pike at large completed their 2 terms. And I'd like to take a moment to appreciate and thank those members for their dedicated service to this volunteer committee. In addition, 1 current COLTPAC member, Jenna Wildvogel, has requested to switch from her District 4 position and apply for one of the vacated at-large positions. As a renter in Santa Fe County, she has requested to be reappointed to an at-large position to allow her to continue serving on COLTPAC should she move to another district. Should the board choose to appoint member Wildvogel to one of the vacant at-large positions, this will also result in a District 4 vacancy. As per Resolution 2011-4, COLTPAC is a 9-member committee that advises the board on matters related to open space, trails, and parks, acting through and with the assistance of the Open Space and Trails program staff. 5 members represent a commission district, and 4 are at-large. Members of the committee are appointed by the board based on letters of interest and qualifications. As per Resolution 2011-4, members should be of diverse backgrounds, representative of the varied users of the county's open space, trails, and parks, and desirable expertise among the membership of the committee include experience in conservation, restoration, natural and cultural resources, community interests, education, trails planning and construction, hydrology, agriculture, wildlife, water management and stewardship, public administration, or finance. Committee members serve a 3-year term subject to reappointment of 1 additional term thereafter. Staff received 11 applications, 4 within District 3, 6 within District 4, and 1 within District 5. And staff conducted interviews with the following qualified applicants. In District 3, Dennis Kurtz, Jill St. Thomas, and Ed Epping. In District 4, Jenna Wildvogel, Dan Potter, Brent Miller, Albert Reed, Paige Grant, and Adam Johnson. And in District 5, Leslie Moody. Staff would like to recommend the appointment of Jenna Wildvogel as an at-large representative. She has been active and a dedicated COLTPAC member since her appointment as the District 4 representative in August of last year. She is the Sustainability Program Manager at Los Alamos National Laboratory and has served as a high school teacher through Teach for America and holds degrees in environmental science and environmental engineering. For the second at-large vacancy, staff recommends either the appointment of Dan Potter, Paige Grant, Albert Reed, or Leslie Moody. We were fortunate enough to receive a lot of qualified applicants in this round. Dan Potter is a retired archaeologist and volunteers to protect open spaces and trails through his work assisting rail trail stewards and as a board member of New Mexico Volunteers for the Outdoors. Paige Grant is a professional hydrologist, co-founder of the Santa Fe Watershed Association, environmental policy analyst, and acequia paciente. Albert Reed spent 2 decades working at the Santa Fe Community College in a number of positions, including as the Dean of the School of Business and Applied Technologies. He currently serves as a board member of the Santa Fe Conservation Trust. And Leslie Moody runs an eco-retreat on the Turquoise Trail. She and her guests are users of the county's open spaces and trails, and she also served as a union leader and coalition builder in Colorado. We did receive the District 3 recommendation from Commissioner Bustamante to appoint Jill St. Thomas as the District 3 representative, and staff concurs with that recommendation. And should the board choose to appoint Jenna Wildvogel to the at-large position, this will create a district vacancy in District 4. So I am able to discuss any of the applicants with you and await your nominations. Thank you.
Thank you, Adeline. Commissioner Bustamante, would you like to make a nomination for your district?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would like to recommend for approval Jill St. Thomas for District 3, given her experience on planning committees, the time that she has committed over the last 30 years in working with cultural projects and various community and cultural events in District 3. I hope that you will receive her application favorably.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Thank you. There's a lot going on in District 4 for this one, and oh my gosh.
3. We're on District 3, so I need a second.
Oh,
I'll
that's- is
second that, I'm sorry.
Madam Chair.
Point
if I-
of order.
Madam Chair, if I may also say for the record, the other two applicants were very good. I'm grateful for the submissions that came through.
You might have another chance for another round, but, so we have a nomination and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now I'm going to go to Commissioner for District 4, Commissioner Hughes.
Wait a second. I'm District 4.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Gotcha, sorry.
It's
No
okay.
worries.
I always get I get
course.
your two districts mixed up. I apologize. So Commissioner Hamilton, District 4.
Well, at least she didn't say Commissioner Hanson, District 4. There's a lot going on in District 4. I strongly suggest I would nominate Jenna Waldvogel to the at-large position. And actually, I would recommend Dan Potter for the second at-large position. And that leaves somebody for the District 4 position. The other applicants were fabulous, and Paige was mentioned. I also wanted to mention Brent Miller. He's been here the shortest time, but he was a professional. I mean, he retired from a position that does this sort of thing, for a living, and has been very active in the community for the last few years. And so it's a very hard decision because they're such strong applicants. So I'm actually willing to take other people's input to either nominate for district.
Commissioner, why don't we just have
The
a
at-large?
vote on the two at-large?
Oh, good idea, fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Is there a policy for having all of the at-larges from one district, or is there that they can both be from, so you end up with 3 from District 2 or from District 4 and 1 from the other 4 districts?
I think it depends on who applied. So at the moment, we have these 3. Nobody applied from District 1 or District.
I don't know if they
Remember
knew that they
Jen-
were recruiting an at-large at the time. I know
think
we were.
did. We
okay.
put out notices. I sent out a notice and.
So
for
everybody
at-large-
lives in a district no matter what. So they're listed under the district they live in, and Jenna is moving. That's why she requested.
Gotcha.
She's moving out of District 4, so that's why she requested that. So it's just,
So let's
one
just vote
at-large.
on Jenna. Let's have a nomination for Jenna first.
We can do it all that way. You can, it's fine. I just wanted to know that.
Oh,
part.
okay. So,
well, I'll nominate, I'd like to do Jenna and Dan Potter for the
okay,
two.
Second for Jenna and Dan Potter
okay,
for the at-large positions, right?
yes.
Yes.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next. Now, we have to nominate somebody for District 4. Is this correct, Adeline?
Correct.
Okay, so we've eliminated the 2 at the top as at-large, and we have Paige Grant, Adam Johnson, Brent Miller as the possibilities.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I just want to mention that I've known Paige Grant for many, many years, and she would certainly be an excellent member. I don't know, of the ones that were recommended by the staff, it was Paige and Albert Reed, and Mr. Reed also looked very good. I don't know him, but I do know that Paige Grant would do a good job.
I like the
So-
fact that she's a hydrologist, but Commissioner Hamilton, go ahead.
I agree with everything that's said. Frankly, all 3 of them, Brent, Albert, and Paige, are incredibly. So let's just, I'll go with the nomination for Paige Grant. If you,
And I'll second it.
Okay. All those in, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, congratulations to Paige Grant, Dan Potter, and Gina. And we look forward to, and Jill St. Thomas on their nominations. Thank you, Adeline, very much.
Thank you all.
And thank you, commissioners. Okay, next we will move on to item 6A, request approval of Housing and Urban Development Grant Agreement, number B 22 CPNM 0619 for funding amount of $1,044,172 for Santa Fe County Housing Authority Public Roofing Project, and delegation of authority to the county manager to execute the grant agreement required to form and necessary construction contracts and purchase order to complete the project. I bet it's Bill Taylor. Welcome. Good to see you. Happy spring and afternoon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Same to you and the commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to present. Again, I'm Bill Taylor. I'm with the Purchasing Division with Santa Fe County. And what's before you is the Housing Department received a HUD grant to re-roof multiple units at both Santa Cruz Housing Authority and at Camino de Jacobo facility. And the reason it's before you is because of the amount of the grant agreement request, and our caption is also not only to delegate signature authority to the county manager to sign the agreement, but also to go forward with our typical process of completing a project and delegating signature authority to allow the county manager to approve the contracts and purchase order contracts necessary to complete the housing roofing project at housing. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Are there questions from the board? What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve. It's if we can do both items 7A, or sorry, 6A and 6B.
Second?
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. 6A is approved. So next we will go on to 6B, request approval of Housing and Urban Development Grant Agreement. Commissioner Green, just to be clear, you were only doing,
I was willing to do both, but I will make a motion on the second one because it seemed like he was presented both at the same time, but I can make a separate motion.
Madam Chair, it's a pleasure of the commission if you want.
Did you present everything for
Well,
that one?
the only difference, Madam Chair?
pardon?
Oh, the only difference, Madam Chair, is the amounts of the two HUD agreements, and one is for re-roofing, the other is for re-stuccoing, both at Santa Cruz and Camino Jacobo.
Okay, so I was under the impression we were doing A, but then I think I heard you say B.
You did. So A and B. But
Okay, so I'm going to go back to 6A and ask for approval of just 6A.
Okay, so I motion for approval of item 6A, request for the approval of the housing grant number B22CPNM0619 for funding, as well as delegation of signing authority to the county manager, both items of item A.
Okay. Do I have
Second.
Okay, second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Next, we will go on to 6B, which is request approval of Housing and Urban Development Grant Agreement B23 CPNP 0055 for funding amount of $1,212,000 for the Santa Fe County Housing Authority stucco project and delegation of signature authority. What's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair, I move to approve item 6B.
Do I have a second?
And I'll second for both items.
Okay,
for both.
I have Commissioner Hughes, motion, Commissioner Green, a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Always good to see you. Next, we'll go on to 7A, presentation and report from the Santa Fe Business Incubator. Community Development, Juan Torres, Paul Olafson, and Marie Longsire, President and CEO. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Juan. You need to turn on the microphone.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. My name is Juan Torres, and I am the Economic Development Manager in the Community Development Department. I'm here to introduce Marie Longsire. She's the CEO of the Santa Fe Business Incubator, and she will be presenting her 2022 report and informational updates, after which she will take questions.
Welcome, Maria. It's good to see you again.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of the Commission. It's delightful to be back and in person.
Yes.
I'm going to have to figure out, I just pushed the arrow. Okay, look at that, it works. I think most of you, I'm familiar with most of you, and I think most of you are familiar with the Santa Fe Business Incubator, which was established approximately 25 years ago. It's out on Airport Road. It consists of a 30,000 square foot building that houses and supports startup and growing companies of a variety of types. And the point of the Santa Fe Business Incubator is to create jobs, economic impact, increase our tax base, and diversify our local economy. I'm going to go through these slides really quickly. I have a short amount of time, and I want to dedicate time to your questions. But I think the most important thing that you probably care about is so what? And I think the so what is that diversifying our economy has certainly in the last 2 years shown to be a very important aspect of economic development, and increasing the money that flows into our community in economic-based revenue and jobs is very important, and increasing our tax base. Federal studies have shown that for every public dollar put into a business incubator, approximately $42 is returned in taxes to that community. There have been a number of studies by different groups, and it's all very positive. That's a little footprint of our building. It was built in different phases, with a short portion being built first, the second being built a couple of years later, back in the late 90s. We have a variety of industries that we serve. We don't do a lot of retail because of the nature of our program. We do quite a bit now of biotech and STEM-based type of work, science, technology, research, software, et cetera, as well as professional services and other kinds of services. I'm going to run through 3 slides about different programs that we offer. It's a wide variety. We're very blessed to have a group of over 75 volunteers, of business professionals, who help our clients and expand our clients' network through their volunteer coaching, mentoring, and helping our clients. More of our program, coaching and mentoring, our Founders Exchange, Expert Connections, Connections to Capital, which is, of course, very important for startup companies. This is our economic impact highlights of 2022, with capital attracted, revenue, payroll, employees. About 130 people are employed by the companies that we work with. And it's a very high wage range, also a lot of good benefits. We could not do this work. You're looking at 1/3 of the permanent full-time staff of the Santa Fe Business Incubator to run that 30,000 square foot building and all the programs. So we could not do this without very important, strong partnerships with a lot of different economic development entities, agencies, and our collaborative work with our higher education, our national labs, and all of these agencies is really important to being able to develop and deliver a holistic experience to our clients. As I mentioned, biotech and life science is growing very, very rapidly. There's a lot of money coming in our community and a lot of very good jobs in our community in this particular field right now. I thought you might want to hear a little bit about the challenges that we've seen, because it's always not rosy and easy, particularly for startup companies. To give you a sense of what we do, I think about it as a three-legged approach to helping young companies and entrepreneurs. One is a place, which we've just talked about, I've showed you pictures of. The other is people, so peer-to-peer help with helping each other. This volunteer group we have, our staff, our board, our partnerships, our community, that comes together to give people the networks and the connections and the people they need to run their companies and expand their companies, and then programs, workshops, trainings, coaching, events, et cetera, that we host or that our partner organizations host with us. The current challenges, as you can imagine, inflation and sort of post-pandemic labor issues still continue to be a problem, supply chain. This changing from everything in person to everything at home to now hybrid. So there's a lot of demand for hybrid trainings, events, meetings, and our scope and reach is a lot more since the pandemic if we can continue to deliver things both in person and virtually, which we intend to do. This is other challenges. The labor availability, I can't say enough about it, is still quite an issue for those of us. Actually, if I take this opportunity to put the word out, our program director, who's absolutely fantastic, took a wonderful job at Sandia National Labs, and so we'll be searching for a program director. And the last time I did that, it took a fair amount of time. So if you know somebody with an MBA who's willing to kind of start out as maybe a younger person out of college, yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. Increased costs of money and access to capital. We're seeing lending. I was reading this morning, banks are sort of tightening up on their lending a little bit. So our connections to capital and to the nonprofit capital world are very important right now. Some observations. There's been an increased national focus on entrepreneurship over the last several years, and we're seeing that in demand. I would say we're up about 250% in the incidents of people contacting us to ask questions about resources, about how to start their business, about where to go, and so that's actually really wonderful. We're serving a lot of people right now. The increasing need for a diverse economic base, I think when things shut down to a virtual world, all of us that work in northern New Mexico certainly saw a big hit because so much of our economy relies on people visiting us. So this diversity in our economic base has never been more important. And then I have to say the public support makes a huge difference. It allows us to leverage private support in the private sector, and it shows it allows us to even go out and get federal dollars as well, and it shows a confidence in what we're doing that's very, very important. So we thank the county for your continual support, and it's a small amount, but it's a huge amount to us. The business success rates are excellent. The last time I gave this report, I noted that we didn't lose a single company during the pandemic. That's still true. One person closed a company for personal reasons, but it was not a business failure. And so we continue to have new companies come in and companies move out, and we're very proud of all of them. They work really hard. And that concludes my report. I don't know how many minutes it was, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Maria. The incubator is incredibly important to Santa Fe County, Santa Fe City, and to our constituents. Comments from the board? Commissioner Hughes?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Marie. And I also agree it's a very important project. I have some friends who've worked out there and with some of the startups and all. How many companies are you hosting at the moment?
Commissioner Hughes, that number is so fluid that I would have to call the office for an exact number, but I believe it's 18 regular tenants, 5 affiliate companies, and then about a dozen that participate in other programs that we offer that are to bring people into the incubator.
Okay, and how long do people usually stay in the incubator?
There is a wide variety depending on the nature of the business. The average is just under 4 years. Biotech companies and research and development companies typically need an 8 to 10 year runway, and we're seeing them at about 5 to 7 years. Some of the service businesses can be up and out in as little as 2 years. So the average seems to follow in each of those sort of subsectors with about 3 and 3.8, 3 and 7.75 years average.
Thank you. Thank you for the extra information.
Commissioner Green?
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Marie. That's always great to see you and to hear that things are doing well over there. Sort of to bring, not so much to bring them up to you, but to my fellow commissioners and to the greater, because we've had these conversations before. One of my aspects that I see in Santa Fe is a few different things, but one of them is succession planning. So we're the city different, and we're a community that really is unique with mom and pops. And having been working with small businesses for 30 years in this town, I find that there's very little succession planning here, where restaurants or stores will end up closing the door because they don't have a way to actually pass it on. And so our unique brands and recipes, that's part of the incubation, right? But we always think of incubation as getting somebody started in a business off the ground, but being able to successfully pass it on to another generation, whether it's their own employees or it's another person that you bring in to invest, it's better than investing in a franchise per se and bringing something from the outside here when somebody has money to invest in a local business such as that. And so I would hope that we can explore some succession planning workshops or things like that for some of the small businesses to be able to retire and get some money instead of just turning the lights off. Second thing we've talked about over the past few years is frequently incubators and accelerators will focus on big tech and lab spin-offs that are supposed to do big magical things, but they have a high failure rate. And yet we have an underserved class of folks in Santa Fe which are Spanish-speaking entrepreneurs, and they don't usually have these accelerator or incubator programs. And so we've talked about potentially funding something and finding a partner to execute a Spanish-speaking accelerator program. And I'm hoping that, Paul, that you and Juan have something to contribute to that, either in the budget for next year, nodding yes is wonderful, and that hopefully the incubator can play host to that and maybe even have the partner that runs the program in Spanish. And these are not meant to be necessarily giant 1,000-person companies. It's 5-person companies or 3-person companies, or even companies that are just solo entrepreneurs that have never gotten a business license or insurance, but are just trying to do it right the first time and starting to do that. Which brings to the third sort of strategic initiative within Santa Fe, which is that a lot of folks and businesses are finding that their employment limitations are because their workforce don't have child care and senior care. And so a specific area to focus on would be how to set up a child care business or how to set up a senior care business. And that by doing that, it's you solve 2 problems with 1 solution, and you end up with families that are able to get back to work and have good, healthy child care for their children or for their seniors. And at the same time, we have an entrepreneur that has a business here. So it helps free up our workforce, at the same time creates a new business. And I look forward to working with you on all of those, and I love the presentation, so thank you.
Madam Chairman, may I address Commissioner Green?
Of course.
Thank you, Commissioner Green. Those are things that we know are important in our community and for our companies. I would like to say that for every one of these, and for our program as it exists today, partnerships are critical. Partnerships with the public sector, partnerships with other agencies. We are a small but mighty, and I think maybe we punch a little above our weight for the way we look, but we have barely capacity to do what we're supposed to be doing right now. However, we have wonderful networks and access to experts who could help. Succession planning is something we have done trainings on in the past. We also dedicate ourselves to making sure that our client companies get what they want and what they need. If their desire is to pass their business down within the family or to someone they know, then we want to help them do that. If their desire is to sell it or license their technology or whatever, we want to help them. We want to support their goals, but that is a really important and critical part of growing a business. For the tech and lab spinoffs, and the underserved portion of our population with Spanish speakers, women and minorities, people who are in poverty trying to get out. They require a lot of extra attention and time and effort. We're very aware of those needs because we've been serving them since the beginning. We have a number of immigrant businesses. We are not able to provide all of the translation and bilingual services we want, but we partner with West and SCORE and others. In fact, our incubator is the host to Thursday night is a session on workshops for in Spanish on the South Side that will be hosted by SCORE and by us and by the Spano Chamber and the Santa Fe Chamber. So this encouraging partnership is really, really important to make these things happen. And the same with childcare and childcare companies. We would want to get the expertise in the community and bring it together and help promote it. One thing we're very proud of, I think you saw our newsletter and our report, is our ability to have a pretty wide reach to get the word out on things. And so that's something we can certainly help do, as well as use our experience with startup companies. So thank you for those, and we look forward to working with you and any of the commissioners and public on these programs. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board?
Madam Chair, hi Marie.
Commissioner Bustamante.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for the opportunities and the clarification for the benefit of the other commissioners and the work that we did when I was at Santa Fe Community College with SCORE in making sure that we had the workshops for the Spanish-speaking populations and making sure that we were recruiting from that general district into, at that time, my interest was working with the community college, but we were working with a number of the businesses and entities and getting the workforce built. There were non-English speaking individuals in the halls at the Santa Fe Incubator. So you've done some good work there. And I think what I really appreciate your presentation, and I'd like to hear from you, if you put on the hat that you had on when I met you now probably more than a decade ago at least, what are the opportunities that are still present? If you said, all right, everything that I said is true, but what does it look like as we continue to move forward in the opportunities with the incubator? I have to say it's a pleasure to drive up to that building in the mornings, and I wonder what your vision is and what the continued vision is for the incubator at this time.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Bustamante, thank you for your comments and the question. It's hard to say, but I believe that as long as we are being responsive and inclusive to the types of businesses and the types of entrepreneurs that are in our community that want opportunity, we can't go wrong. And we have seen, I've been doing this 25 and a half years now, and through that time, I've seen different industries sort of rise to the surface, different places where people are putting capital and energy. And I think developing programs that are sort of fleet of foot that can be changed to assist different types of business and different types of entrepreneurs is critical. I think continuing to work in partnership with others is really, really important. I believe that one of the things the pandemic has taught us is this importance of being able to work further out from where you are physically are, and helping our companies do that with the technology that they need and with the training that they need, and to get into markets beyond right under our noses is even more important than ever, not only in New Mexico, but nationally and even internationally. So that would be part of my vision.
Thank you sincerely for your good work.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you. I personally think that everybody needs succession planning. I also know that there is some senior care facilities that has started up in Santa Fe. It's over in the Hopewell area. And, you know, they are really trying to provide this senior care service. And I don't know if you've worked with them, but I think anything we can do to help them get more a recognition and awareness, because there are many people who do need senior care assistance, and I think that they are doing a really excellent job in building a facility and trying to provide these services.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. One of our graduate companies is planning on building a senior care facility soon also, so we're certainly encouraging that.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. It's always great to see you. We are happy that we can support your efforts in helping our community.
Madam Chairman, members of the Commission, this is the point where I say something, my voice breaks because it's so important and I can't thank you enough. But I also would like to thank the fabulous staff. Paul and Juan have been wonderful to work with to prepare for this meeting. I've done it before, but I know for them it might be the first time working with me on this. And congratulations to Juan, who I've worked with in different capacities and look forward to working with here. Thank you.
Great to hear. Thank you very much, Maria. Thank you, Juan. Thank you, Paul, for a great presentation. Next, we'll go on to 7B, presentation of domestic well monitoring pilot program plan, La Cienega and La Cienega planning area. I see that we have Jacqueline Beam, and you have a number of associates with you.
Thank you,
welcome.
Madam Chair, Commissioners. We do have a presentation, and the presenters are parking right now, is what I understand. So I could either start with the introduction, or we could, I don't know if it's possible to delay for 5 minutes.
Why don't we wait, and we could go on to a couple other items, and then we can bring that forward.
Thank you,
Okay,
Madam Chair. Apologies.
Thank you, Jacqueline. So then we'll go on to item 8, matters of public concern. Are there people in the audience who want to speak to matters of public concern? Okay, please come up, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, thank you so much. My name is Johanna Gilligan, and I am the Chief External Affairs Officer at HomeWise, as well as a Santa Fe native. And I am here today regarding the ordinance to annex Area 1B into the traditional Agua Fria Village. As you all know, HomeWise has been on a mission for 30 years to help low and moderate income residents build wealth through homeownership. We do this through both lending and technical assistance to our clients, as well as residential development. And as I believe you all also know, we own a significant amount of land in Area 1B, and our vision there has been to bring beautiful, sustainable, and affordable housing to Santa Feans on this land. The annexation into Agua Fria Village would not allow us to bring that vision to life at a time when we are facing the most severe affordable housing crisis to date. We first heard about the proposed annexation during the April 5th BCC meeting when you all passed the ordinance. And at that meeting, Commissioner Hansen falsely stated that HomeWise was in support of this annexation. We do not support the annexation. We believe, given the climate crisis and the severe lack of affordable housing, that annexation into the village is inadequate to meet our current housing needs. To lock this significant proportion of land into R1 zoning is an act of exclusionary zoning from our perspective, and makes the creation of much-needed affordable housing, which I know the commissioners care very much about, at any significant scale impossible. While we very much appreciate Commissioner Bustamante's suggestion and idea of a potential carve-out of our land in the annexation, the timeline for this decision gives us no ability to understand the feasibility of this strategy. We need more time to explore the implications of this decision as a landowner, but more importantly, as an organization committed to ensuring low and moderate income residents can remain in Santa Fe. We therefore request a 90-day extension to the timeline for this decision. During that time, we would be able to better understand the implications of this outcome as a property owner, but again, even more importantly, as an affordable housing, as an organization dedicated to housing affordability and sustainable land uses. We also request this delay in order for the county to better understand how this decision versus annexation into the city, as has been the commitment for over a decade, affects the residents of the city and the county. And we think the best way to analyze this would be through the lens of the Santa Fe County's housing plan, which we know prioritizes incentivizing affordable housing, adopting pro-housing strategies, and adopting land use policies that center equitable development and sustainable land use practices.
Yeah.
Therefore, we request that you all delay and appreciate very much your time.
And
Thank you.
you have an opportunity to make public comment again on May 1st, when we have the public hearing. So thank you.
Thank you. We were not aware of a public hearing on May 1st. Chair Hansen.
It will be noticed tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Next.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Isaac Hammond Paul. I, too, am an employee of HomeWise. I'm the community development director. I live at 1263 Camino Monte Cielo, Santa Fe, New Mexico, inside the city, but in what was formerly the county. So some of the points I'll repeat from my colleague, but essentially, I think you don't have to go.
So I would appreciate it if you don't repeat.
Okay, sure. So three quick points here. First, I don't think you have to go very far downstream to imagine that this move preserves and solidifies R1 zoning in the area, which is really antithetical to the needs of the city and county residents who are in desperate need of more affordable housing. I'm also concerned that this move directly contradicts the draft Santa Fe County Housing Plan, which calls for the county to incentivize affordable housing, support the adoption of pro-housing land use policies that center equity and sustainability. Finally, and speaking of these equity-centered kind of approaches to developing existing assets, this move removes land from the north side, potential land that could be developed with an eye towards equity and affordability and sustainability, and continues to put pressure on the south side of Santa Fe, where the vast majority of affordable housing has been developed. I believe this to be concerning because I think it's a move to continue the de facto segregation of our city. Thank you, and if you have questions, happy to take them.
We do not comment or take questions during public comment, but thank you very much. Next. Is there anybody else who wants to speak?
Good afternoon, County Commission. My name is Rathy Casey. I'm the Chief Creative Officer with HomeWise as well. I'll try not to repeat anything that's already been said, but just bring to your attention one more item regarding this matter. The traditional historic community designation was established as a tool to preserve community identity and to enable traditional historic communities to avoid annexation by neighboring municipalities, not as a tool by which to prevent the development of affordable housing on neighboring property. In this case, this R1 designation would prohibit the affordable housing to occur. And I just wanted to note that Mike Lofton, our CEO, is probably also on the WebEx if he's able to speak at this moment too. Thank you.
We will go to the web also. So, Daniel, do we have people online who would like to speak?
Madam Chair, we have Jamie Jaramillo.
So I want to state for the record that HomeWise, you will have an opportunity to speak at the public hearing on May 1st, and that would probably be the more appropriate place for you to be speaking to this issue, since, but you're welcome to speak right now. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the County Commission. Thank you for this opportunity to speak this afternoon. My name is Jamie Jaramillo, Real Estate Development Planning Director with HomeWise, and I would really like to underscore the fact that many of us are here today to request a 90-day deferral of this Agua Fria Village expansion petition. Really, that is the main objective of us attending the hearing today and speaking with you all, is to request this 90-day deferral. First and foremost, HomeWise was not notified of this petition, and we are not in agreement with the expansion of Agua Fria Village. HomeWise intends to develop much needed affordable housing one day on this property in the future, and if these thousands of acres as a part of Annexation Area 1B is designated as a part of the traditional village and withdrawn from annexation consideration into the city of Santa Fe, the maximum density that could be allowed under village zoning is 1 to 3 dwellings per acre. This density really does suffocate any possibility of developing affordable housing here. And I know that is not the intention of this board. I know that is not your intention, Madam Chair, to preclude affordable housing on Santa Fe's north side. And this petition will make affordable housing impossible to develop in this area at a density of 1 to 3 dwellings per acre. This is a perfect example of exclusionary zoning, and I know that is not the intention of this board. So with that, I'm again asking for a 90-day deferral of this petition so that those are impacted by this petition, including HomeWise, will have the time to prepare to speak with you all regarding this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Daniel.
Madam Chair, I do see Mr. Lofton online. He is not raising his hand, but I do see him online.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Mike Lofton. I'm the CEO of HomeWise. Thank you, commissioners, for having us here. You know, last week we heard the day of a hastily called special session of the meeting of the BCC that we weren't notified about, didn't hear about this petition effort, even though people know and acknowledge at that meeting that we own land in that area and we have the intention to build some affordable housing there. This meeting was, the whole purpose of it was to propose absorbing a huge piece of land, hundreds of acres, all of the annexation area and annexation area 1B, and to absorb it into the Agua Fria traditional community. This is clearly an attempt to circumvent the annexation agreement between the city and the county. We think this is a big mistake. But first, I would like to correct false and misleading statements made at that meeting. Commissioner Hanson stated that HomeWise did, quote, not have any issue with the proposal. This is completely and utterly untrue. In fact, I have had repeated conversations with Commissioner Hanson where I stated very clearly that HomeWise thinks the annexation agreement reached by the city and the county is good public policy and should be completed. We think there should be a clear delineation of the boundary between the city and the county. The old checkerboard boundary is confusing and dysfunctional. We think it is important that the area within the city be served by city water and sewer with transportation connectivity that serves everyone, including pedestrians and bikers and public transportation. We think that the proposal to absorb hundreds of acres into the Agua Fria Village is a disingenuous attempt at exclusionary zoning that will impede anybody's ability, including ours. And we're the only landowner that wasn't talked to, but the only landowner that people know does affordable housing. That this is going to impede the future development of affordable housing on Santa Fe's north side. Sid Monroe, one of the lead petitioners, made it very clear at that meeting and other times that he doesn't want any more than 1 unit per acre. It is impossible to build affordable housing on 1 acre lots or greater. This is also really bad land planning. It's going to push all new housing development off of the north, any ability to do it on the north side. It's going to push it all onto the south side, which contributes to the segregation of our community. It doesn't allow for connectivity. It's going to push all you're going to have a bunch of private roads like that go into, all empty onto Alameda. You're going to have big lots served by septic and wells. It's not good environmental policy to do development that way. We would ask you to not do this annexation, this absorption into Agua Fria Village, but complete the annexation agreement that you have already made with the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else online that would like to speak?
Madam Chair, our next speaker is Daniel Warwath.
Hey there, sorry you caught me at a weird time for the sunlight at my desk here, but Daniel Warwath, I'm with the Santa Fe Housing Action Coalition, New Mexico Interfaith Housing. Just expressing some of the similar concerns that other folks have around this. It seems that in the rush to create a solution around this annexation problems, that we are opening the door to some unintended consequences. Low density zoning is luxury zoning. And, you know, I think one of the big issues that I think is counter to the intent of the legislation being used here is that over half the area being proposed for annexation are vacant parcels. So they are not developed parcels, they're not existing homeowners. So probably not really part of a traditional village if you think about the legislation in the strict sense. So just seems that we should take some time and understand all these implications before moving forward with this policy. And so I would reiterate my support for HomeWise call to delay this 90 days so some of these unintended consequences could be understood better, because it is a permanent decision in many ways trying to address a temporary problem. So that would be my recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Madam Chair, our next speaker is Veronica.
Hi there, my name is Veronica Toledo and I work with HomeWise. As you have heard, we urge you to defer your vote by at least 90 days. I work in community development and hear from families every day, often working multiple jobs to make ends meet, who are desperately seeking more affordable options in Santa Fe. This proposal will only benefit affluent residents living next to the open space who don't want to see development, and it stops any affordable housing from being built. This proposal hurts thousands of Santa Fe residents. We urge you to make a just and equitable decision about this land, and also to provide 90 days to further study this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, Daniel?
Madam Chair, I'm not seeing any other users on WebEx indicating that they'd like to speak during matters of public concern.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all for your sharing your concerns. And now we will move back on to presentations of 7B.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Jacqueline Beam, Sustainability Manager with the Community Development Department. Thank you for the opportunity to report out on this important project. In 2017, the Board of County Commissioners voted to approve the strategic plan for the Sustainability Office, which included the review and planning recommendations of the county's domestic well metering program, as outlined in Section 713.11.5 of the Sustainable Land Development Code. Sustainability staff contracted through an RFP process the services of Daniel B. Stevens and Associates, Incorporated, They issued a notice to proceed on May 2nd, 2022, or the county issued a notice. The consultant has been working to collect and research necessary information for the creation of a domestic well monitoring program with the La Cienega and La Cienegilla planning area selected as the pilot area. The consultant, along with the Sustainability Division of the Community Development Department, has completed the review and analysis, which serves as a tool to inform future steps in regards to the SLDC and target strategies for monitoring groundwater levels and usage. The Sustainability Division, along with the consultant Amy Ewing from DBSNA and the New Mexico Bureau of Geology and Mineral Resources, Stacy Timmons and Ethan Mamer, are presenting their findings and recommendations in this presentation. And also available is Michelle Hunter from Utilities and Public Works. Covered in the presentation to follow will be highlights regarding current conditions, estimated water demand, project public development and involvement, previous existing requirements, existing domestic well program, the current growth management process, estimates of where existing requirements apply, the well monitoring program examples of best practices, and a summary and recommendations. And with that, I will turn it over to Amy Ewing, our consultant from DBSNA, to continue with the presentation.
Madam Chair, this advancer. Okay, great.
Okay, welcome.
Hi, Madam Chair, Commissioners. My name is Amy Ewing. I work at Dana B. Stevens and Associates in Albuquerque, and I will be giving this overview presentation about Phase 1 of the Domestic Well Monitoring Project. So the project team, as Jacqueline was mentioning, included Dana B. Stevens and Associates, as well as the New Mexico Bureau of Geology and Mineral Resources. They've been working in this area for many, many years, so they were an excellent partner to work with us on this project. The focus of this first phase was to document current conditions, summarize the existing requirements and program. We also looked at the historic requirements as well, and make some recommendations. We also initiated the public involvement as a part of this first phase. So just as an aside, the state convened a water policy and infrastructure task force last year, and that task force met for many months and ended up issuing a report that identified the need, and this is statewide, for increased monitoring, the metering of wells, developing a clear understanding of the volume of groundwater and aquifers. They made recommendations for setting goals for reductions in water use, and identified an opportunity to fund community drought mitigation plans and require and fund metering efforts. So that's in its infancy, but that's on a state level, what's going on. We'll be watching what might come out of that as far as potential funding in the future. But just to let you know that that process was underway this last year, and the goals and objectives of this current program are in line with the findings and recommendations of that report. So this is the La Cienega and La Cienegilla planning area. We wanted to use the existing planning area rather than, carving off some new and different area. This is an area that there's been significant community planning, and we reviewed those plans as a part of this first phase of the project. This is just a map of the geology of the area with the boundary, the planning area shown on there. The report goes into more detail about hydrogeology. The Bureau of Geology wrote the appendix all about the hydrogeology of the area. This map is from the report also. I know it's a little bit small, but you can see the blue water lines. This is showing the extent of the county water utility. And inside the planning area, those areas with the purple lines and then the shading, those parcels are connected to county water. So as you can see, most of the residences inside of this planning area are served by domestic wells. The utility is not serving the majority of this planning area. There are also a few community water systems within this planning area. So current conditions, just to give you kind of the numbers, we got tax assessor information for the county, and there are 1,341 parcels in this planning area. We got information from the New Mexico Office of the State Engineer, and there are 934 permitted wells in this planning area. Of that 934, about 700 of those are domestic one household wells, and about 100 are domestic multiple household wells. So you're looking at over 800 domestic wells in this planning area. Permitted diversions, that we have that information also from the Office of the State Engineer. Roughly 2,000 acre-feet per year is permitted for domestic wells. That's not necessarily what's being pumped out of those domestic wells, but that's the permit volume. Population growth, we don't have the exact numbers, but looking at 2010 to 2020 for the census designated place that exists, that doesn't match the planning area boundary, it's smaller, but the population growth was over 8% between 2010 and 2020. So there are additional domestic wells being added out here. There will continue to be, and if you're looking at 10% growth every decade, that's significant. This map, I know it's very small, it's hard to see, but you'll notice that all those blue dots out there, those are domestic wells. So they're really clustered in the eastern and northeastern portions of this planning area. So that's the 934 permitted wells are shown on that figure. So current and projected demand, that's where it gets a little bit difficult to define. We tried to define it. We ended up estimating both current and projected demand. We know the number of domestic wells that are permitted. We know what the permit volumes are. We don't know what's being pumped from these wells, and so we estimated that. So the range for the estimate of current demand is between 150 and 1,100 acre-feet per year. So that's a very wide range. So this plot just shows you the uncertainty that we have. But 2020 is on the far left of this figure. It shows, what if we have 250 acre-feet per year now, or 500 acre-feet, or 750. So those are three steps in the potential range of current demand. What would happen in the future if we project demand out to 2060 and we increase growth at 5% or 10% or 15% growth per decade? And so to refresh your memory from a few slides ago, we think that growth from 2010 to 2020 was on the order of 10%. So as you can see from this plot, it's very uncertain what current and projected demand may be, but it could be in excess of 1,200 acre-feet per year by 2060. So we reviewed previous requirements for domestic wells as a part of phase 1 of this program. We looked at the La Cienega watershed conditions. So those are not in effect at this time, but they went into effect in 1996. And at that time, connection to the utility was required for new land divisions when service was available within 200 feet of the property line. Ordinance 2002-9, that went into effect in June of 2002, and that added some additional requirements. So those include a 1/4 acre-foot per year per dwelling unit limit for withdrawal by domestic wells for all new residential land division and subdivision. And it also introduced this new requirement that all new wells and buildings using groundwater need to be metered, and meter readings need to be submitted annually. So those were previous requirements for this area. Existing requirements for this area come from the Sustainable Land Development Code. So these are detailed in the report and summarized on these next couple of slides. But those requirements include that wells need to be capable of supplying the proposed development for 99 years. Restrictions and covenants need to be filed with the plat or site development plan for all development. And then the water use for a development can't exceed what's written in the development order on a plat note or in the Sustainable Land Development Code. Some of the requirements from the 2002 ordinance are in this Sustainable Land Development Code. That includes the limit of 0.25 acre foot for new dwellings that are constructed after the code went into effect. And again, requiring that you participate in the well metering program, provide meter readings annually. Also, there's a requirement that you test your meter to ensure that, yes, it is actually accurately metering use every 10 years, and then replacing your meter if required. This wasn't really specific to our project here, but in the event that you wanted to drill a domestic well within the service area of the county utility, you would need a permit for that. And then all new residential lots created, land divisions, subdivisions, and all non-residential development is required to connect to the utility when the service is available within 200 feet of the property line, unless you're already connected to one of the community water systems that I mentioned earlier. So changing gears a little bit to water level monitoring. This was another reason that the Bureau of Geology is on the team for this project. So repeat groundwater elevation measurements, so measuring to the depth of the groundwater aquifer surface. Repeat measurements are important in order to understand what's happening to the groundwater and what amount of groundwater you have in storage. So the Bureau has an existing program, and today was the day. Ethan was here. I wish you all could have gone on a field trip before the meeting and gone out with Ethan, but he was measuring the water levels in the wells that are part of their existing monitoring program for water levels today. And that is using state and philanthropic funding. It's not county funding for that water level measurement. They only measure 10 wells in this area, which is not very many, on an annual basis. And 7 of those are within our planning area. 3 of them are a little bit up gradient to the northeast. And that's really useful to have information up gradient. But 10 wells is not very many. Additional wells have been monitored in the past, but the number of wells being monitored has been minimized due to lack of funding. So this is just a photograph showing a technician collecting a depth to water measurement in a well. So you're just measuring, what's the depth until you reach the groundwater in that specific monitor well or domestic well, as the case may be. So we did a review of the existing domestic well program, what's been done in the past. So in addition to, what are the current conditions of the planning area, number of wells, how many households, what do we think the demand is currently, what could it be in the future, what are the water levels, what's being, tracked in that area. Well, what's the existing program? So, there's all these requirements, and there have been various management efforts at the county. And at some periods, there's been dedicated staffing for those efforts, but not always. And so between 2005 and 2011, there have been some activities underway as part of this program. So in the past, there have been meter readings solicited from domestic well owners. But when that was done and mailings were sent out, there's always the issue of, do we have a good address for this, well owner, maybe not. You get the mailing returned to you. Maybe the mailings make it there, but people don't respond. Or they respond and they don't know how to read their meter, and so they give you information that's not usable. That happens quite often. As Jacqueline mentioned, the program has been managed by the Sustainability Division since 2017. It was historically in utilities before that. So the existing program at present, they receive very few meter reading reports annually. I reviewed all of the reports that they have for the last 5 years. It's not a lot. The data that they have, it's really inadequate to estimate current water demand, as I mentioned back when we were talking about projections. So the data that we have is lacking. It's really not enough to have any idea of what the volume of groundwater being pumped is for this area. In fact, none of the meter reading data are for this area, but other areas of the county, it's still applicable. So we recommend that there's better tracking of the metering, the meter reading, and pumping limitation requirements going forward. So the recommendations of this phase 1 study, maybe I should stop for 1 second and just tell you that we, as a part of this phase 1, we did a little bit of public outreach. So what we did was, with that tax assessor database information, we clipped the database of the land, the property owners for the county. We clipped that to only show us landowners inside of the planning area, and we sent an announcement to every landowner in the county. So there's 1,341 parcels. We sent mailing to 1,458 landowners announcing a public open house that we had on the project. And that was held back in September. We had about 60 attendees. I received a lot of phone calls for people that either did or could not attend, but we got a lot of public input from landowners in the property, in the planning area. And I think the idea is that as this program steps forward, there would be more of that. The focus of this was really, where are we? What's required? What's being done? And so, recommendations. Our first recommendation is that this report that we've written be made available to the Water Policy Advisory Committee, the La Cienega Valley Association, also the City County Water Conservation Committee, and the public, obviously, as well. There's a project-specific website available on the county website that includes everything to date on the project, our handouts from our public open house, the maps that were shown there, and the video from that meeting, and then this report will be added at the time that it goes public as well. We recommend that the program be moved under Public Works due to the subject matter expertise of the program. We recommend that there be dedicated staffing for this program. I think what's been limited to date is that really that's not been, there hasn't been dedicated staffing for this program predominantly in the past. And we say create a new full-time position. Maybe that is hire an existing position to run the program. However it's done, have a person that's responsible for this and that they would lead the effort for the program going forward. Our recommendations continue. There are multiple departments at the county that obviously would need to be involved in any program going forward. That includes Public Works, it includes growth management, and also sustainability. So we've recommended that a 6-month work planning process be undertaken next to outline the next steps of what this program may be. We recommend that the water level monitoring network be expanded to assess changes in depth to water over time. Currently 10 wells are being monitored. I recommended that be increased to 50. The number's not important, but more would be good. It would be especially useful to use wells that have been monitored in the past, because as we mentioned, it's really useful to have a historic record for what water levels have been in these wells, and then watch them into the future with what may happen, or with as more wells come online or different management decisions are made by other folks outside of the planning area that are upgrading it. And then also coordinate with the Office of the State Engineer about the domestic well requirements. I think that that's important. The city does do some of that. There's a city ordinance regarding domestic wells, and that information is available when you look on the Office of the State Engineer website and you pull up their mapping. There's a shading that indicates, oh, there are some other requirements that are going to apply to you in this area. And the county's requirements aren't shown in that same way. So I think that there's an opportunity for coordination with the state. We recommend also implementing a volunteer metering program. So there are some metering requirements for some of the wells out here in this planning area. The vast majority of the wells, meters are not required for because those wells predate those requirements. We have recommended that new meters be installed with advanced metering infrastructure capability. That means that meter readings can be collected by driving by the property without having county staff having to walk onto a private person's home, property to collect a meter reading, and that meters be collected monthly. So with the existing program, as homeowners are collecting meter readings, it's very few that turn those in, but the ones that do, even almost none of them collect them correctly and give information that's usable. Most people don't know how to read a meter, and so if you had county staff doing that, you would get data that would be much more usable. Also, a recommendation is to add a field inspection requirement for all new domestic wells in the planning area. That's a requirement that was in place with a previous ordinance that I didn't touch on. It's no longer in effect, and that's not something that's done now. But meters are required for new domestic wells, but there's not any kind of field check. So if there were a field check and you knew that those meters were installed, you could add those new wells to this metering program and be collecting information from those wells going forward, also trying to add some other wells that are previously existing to the program. But if you at least catch the new ones on an ongoing basis, you're going to build up a lot more data than is available at present. Also, there were many public comments and questions about water quality. And so water quality was not a focus of this current project. The county doesn't collect water quality samples from domestic wells. It's up to the homeowners to do that. But we made a recommendation for the county to coordinate with the New Mexico Environment Department, the Drinking Water Bureau. They hold water fairs at different places throughout the state. Homeowners can well owners can bring in a sample of their water and have those samples tested, generally for general chemistry parameters, maybe arsenic, nitrate, a few things. But we recommend that the county work with the Environment Department to set something like that up. There are people that are interested in having their wells water quality tested. And then really, I think most important is to reassess the program annually. So we're not recommending that anything be forced on anybody with this program. We're looking for volunteers to meter and report water usage to give the county an idea of what volume of groundwater is being used in this planning area. But really, it would be useful to reassess annually how many participants do we have in the program, how much usable data are we getting, is that adequate, or do we need to do something different? How can we pivot to be more useful? So one of the other, the report's pretty broad. It covers a lot of things. I looked a lot at other existing well management programs. What are other people doing? What's Bernalillo County doing? A whole lot, it turns out. But that's detailed in the report. We won't go into that here. But funding, how could you fund a program like this, especially when you're looking at having staff dedicated to a program like this? Are there funds available? So I am not aware of grant programs that would support recurring costs for a program like this. There are some funding that could be potentially available for getting a program started. As a part of the next phase of this project, you need to evaluate what money could be spent on, and those kind of things. But there are some potential, the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation has Water Smart grants. It's possible to get some funding to help with a program like this. And that's the conclusion of this PowerPoint. I think we'll take any questions that you have.
Okay, questions from the board? Commissioner Green?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for the presentation. Is there data already produced and trends in water table? Do we see things rising, things going down? What are the trends in that basin?
So presently, it's based on 10 wells, so that's really not a very large sampling, I would caveat that. But at present, they've really stabilized. You were seeing a decline of about 0.3 feet per year in the water levels. So that's the groundwater being mined, right? You're taking out more than is recharging. So they were consistently decreasing, but more recently, and I don't know what Ethan's data from today shows, but they've really stabilized. And that's likely not due to management decisions inside this planning area. It's management decisions up gradient with the transition, into more surface water use, less groundwater pumping. So based on the very limited data that there are, it looks to be relatively stable. As you put more and more wells out there, whether that would continue to be the case, I don't know. But presently, it's not, a dire prediction. The plot looks pretty flat that's in the report.
Great. And water quality, there's no baseline. We don't know nothing.
No, the EPA and Drinking Water Bureau at NMED, you only, water quality sampling is only required for systems serving 25 or more connections. So there's no requirement for anybody with a domestic well or a multifamily domestic well. That's all on the well owner to do that sampling. So there's no information for that.
Given that we have only 10 wells that we're monitoring and working with so closely, what order of magnitude, how expensive would it be for us to start to test those 10 wells?
Well, those 10 wells, we're not sampling those. The Bureau is collecting just water level, depth to groundwater.
But if we would like to get a more comprehensive.
So the bulk of the cost would be getting someone out there. So the question is, who's doing that? Is it a consultant? Is it county staff? If you collect a sample from someone's tap, from a faucet, then that's a relatively short time commitment. If you're setting a pump in a well and purging, and the expenses can go up. It's not terribly expensive to analyze water samples for general chemistry, like arsenic and nitrate and some of the things that would be of most interest for these folks, especially there's no sewer out here, right? It's all septic. So, and these are shallow wells. So really, monitor. I appreciate your question. Monitoring water quality would be good. It wouldn't be hugely expensive, and if you get the Environment Department to come out here and hold a water fair, which I think the request is already in for that, it'd probably be a year or more before we make it to the top of the list because they have to kind of go, be fair and move around the state. But if it's through an NMED water fair, it's free. They absorb the cost, and so. And the county wouldn't have to, they would probably help run the event, but staff wouldn't have to go and collect samples. The well owner would bring the samples into the water fair, turn them in. The Environment Department would analyze those. So that is one other recommendation in the report. We said, it may be that the county could, as a part of the ongoing public outreach, add water quality. Water quality wasn't part of the scope of this at all. It was really talking about, do we have a sustainable water supply out here? Do we know if we do? How many wells and how much water? Well, we don't know how much water is being pumped, but water quality, that was one of the public comments we really heard, is that there's a lot of interest for that. So that could be added to a subsequent phase of the project. But to collect and analyze samples, so long as you have permissions from the homeowner, it wouldn't be hugely expensive. If it's county staff or if it's a consultant, that'll change the number, but it's not hugely expensive.
And lastly, you mentioned potentially turning this into a full-time position. Is this a job for somebody to do full-time, or is there are 5 basins that could fit under this sort of position that could be monitored by one person? Is it a full-time or a fractional position?
That I would have to defer to the county on how that would be best run. I think it would be most efficiently run inside the county. They hired a consultant to help with this, to kind of get an outside picture on what's been done and what information is there. And I think that was an appropriate first step. But it depends how many participants you have, and what the full scope of the project is. I think that recommendation to do a 6-month planning, involving the different folks inside the county, and then potentially consultant and bureau and be involved with that too, we would maybe ferret that out. But it depends what the scope of your thing is. And one of the other considerations is, you talk about collecting water levels, and maybe you do 50 wells in this planning area. Maybe you want to do some wells in other areas. The Bureau is very efficient and affordable, but they're in Socorro, right? So there's some number of wells that if you get over that number, it may be most efficient to have the county staff collecting that information, but you need to have the appropriate staff for that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hughes?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation, and Commissioner Green asked a lot of my questions. I guess my one question is there, I just want to make sure I understand it. You're suggesting we do 6 months of planning with our existing staff, and then we talk about hiring another person and moving that over to Public Works? Or does some of that, is part of your recommendation to do some of that first in order to make the planning possible?
Commissioner, I think the recommendation is to move the program to Public Works, but continue to involve sustainability and others in this 6-month planning program. So Utilities has been involved with the current Phase 1 program in addition to sustainability, and then we ask Growth Management quite a lot of questions also. So I think it's continuing to work together, all these different folks, but with the program under the Public Works.
Thank you. So I guess I'm hoping that the Public Works Department will include in their budget anything they need in order to do that planning process. That does seem like a good first step. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, if I could, what's being broadcast now is a staff memo that accompanied this. We took an effort recognizing the independent work product of the consultant to sort of repackage things a bit differently. So if you continue scrolling down, you'll see a list of administrative and project development recommendations that staff will be pursuing immediately. Then followed by that is aspects of the project that will or may require future BCC approval after additional public reach and otherwise. Continue scrolling. Thank you, Daniel. But with regard to those items that we'll be pursuing immediately, that is the development of a 6-month work planning process to flesh out further the program's next steps. We'll be implementing process changes to ensure that future development is fully compliant with all SLDC requirements, including meter readings and water withdrawal limitations. So again, that's on a go-forward basis relative to future development. We'll explore a final inspection or other verification process for all new domestic wells to verify that meters have been installed and that new domestic wells participate in the well monitoring program going forward. We'll pursue the expansion of the existing water level measurement program to try and hit the target of 50 locations. We'll continue to analyze which parcels in the LCLC planning area are connected to the county water utility or required to connect when service is nearby, and evaluate the possibility of connecting additional parcels using existing infrastructure and the potential expansion of water lines to connect additional parcels. We'll continue to explore the county's ability to provide primary, though not exclusive, water supply to the La Cienega Mutual Domestic Water Consumers Association and Wild and Woolly Trailer Park. Any service agreements would require BCC approval, but we can look at, again, potentially further augmenting the supply in the planning area of surface water rather than groundwater. And then continuing to address water quality and future outreach to county domestic well owners. I believe our interim utility director, Michelle Hunter, has a word to say about water quality in light of recent developments, and I'd ask Michelle to come up and do that. Looking forward to things that would require potential BCC action in the future. We will be working to make it so that the primary responsibility for the program does come to the Public Works Department. We'll be addressing in the fiscal year 2024 any budgetary changes that may be necessary to effectuate that change in responsibility. And then finally, as we plan for addressing the fact that we have many domestic wells that aren't currently required to be metered or report meter readings. We also have a systemic legacy issue associated with lax compliance and limited enforcement bandwidth relative to current water restrictions applicable to existing development. And through public outreach, we will be trying to come up with voluntary, regulatory, and other recommendations to address both the legacy compliance issue as well as the fact that there are many domestic wells that are outside any existing regulations. So that's how staff attempted to summarize where we're at and what we'll be moving forward on, as well as what would require further public outreach. Again, it differs slightly in terms of some emphasis and also how it was packaged, but I wanted to go ahead and make sure that that was front and center before we had additional conversation. And then finally, I think Michelle Hunter, as I indicated, Madam Chair and Commissioners, would like to say a few words relative to water quality.
Welcome, Michelle.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you for having me. I'm just going to briefly discuss the issue with the Air National Guard facility at the City of Santa Fe Airport. What we know, which is not much, is that there was some firefighting training, and firefighting foam contains PFAS, perfluorinated alkyl substances, which are something that many of us know as forever chemicals, Teflon, Scotchgard, that kind of thing. The firefighting foam does contain PFAS, and so the Army National Guard has prioritized some of the facilities throughout New Mexico. There are four that are currently prioritized with respect to characterization of any releases into ground and surface water from those facilities. Santa Fe was prioritized. They are working their way through the CERCLA process, and right now we are in what's called the site investigation inspection part of the CERCLA process, and they have identified that there are concentrations of PFAS directly below the facility. There is not any data any further than that. So what we know is a small thing, which is that there is data that exists that shows that in a perch zone underneath the airport facility, there are some concentrations of PFAS. So I just wanted to say that, but like I also said, we don't have a lot of information. There's not a lot of data yet. They are continuing to collect data, and as they continue to collect that data, they will continue to give us reports so that we can review them and understand what this, what the CERCLA process, the data collection will tell us.
Thank you very much. Anything else?
If you all have questions, I'm happy to answer them. I don't know what else besides just such a small data set at this point. So I just want to emphasize that.
Thank you. I also want to say for the new commissioners, this study on this well monitoring has been requested for quite some time. This is not something that just happened. It's been ongoing. And so I've just felt like it was important for you to know that sustainability was tasked with this in 2017. So that just so you know, I feel like it's important to have history. And Commissioner Hamilton?
Yeah, while we're just talking about details, can you guys speak a little to the compliance monitoring issue? Because it used to be, or at some level, this OSC has authority. They don't usually do compliance monitoring, but they really should. What is the division of where their authority, where they just throw up their hands and give it to, or is it formally transferred to the county?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hamilton, no, I think it's something that the county took on, but that the OSC does not. I mean, they will very readily admit that they do not have the resources to be able to monitor and enforce their own rules for that. And it is interesting, I've looked at a couple of permits down there, and some have metering requirements and some do not. So it's very, all over the place.
May I add to
I
that?
just, oh,
I'd like to say, the Office of the State Engineer is only interested and tasked with volume. So they don't look at water quality in any way. So that's the Environment Department. And so the Drinking Water Bureau does, have monitoring requirements of those water systems that are out there. And so, but those are like lead and copper and, E. coli and things of that nature, arsenic. But as far as domestic wells, there's nothing on the state level or federal level requiring water quality sampling of those wells.
yeah, I should have been more specific. My first comment had to do with water quantity, because both of them are issues, and Michelle hit the high points of what I wanted to get on the record, so thank you. That was a very good response. And with regard to water quality, first of all, if I'm not mistaken, if they have shared wells that serve more than 7 people, the Safe Drinking Water Act requires them to monitor for quality and comply with Safe Drinking Water Act. They don't have to be a mutual domestic. It's defined by how many people are served by the common well. The other thing is, every once in a while, if there, aside from all the other constituents you mentioned, there are some areas that have big radionuclide problems, and the area I live in is one of them. And there have been times when we've cajoled the NMAD to do a water fair and include sampling, which is very expensive compared to many other things. So if that's an area with that concern, we might consider that as a thought. They would probably refuse. So things have gotten very expensive, but it's a thought.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hamilton, yes, being the chief of the bureau that did that, and I should have corrected, I missed that. It's the Groundwater Bureau that actually does the water fairs. So I apologize for missing that. But depending on what data looks like in the area, you're right. They will step in and potentially find funding to do some radionuclides or even some other analytes that make sense for a particular area. I will look to Stacy and Ethan. I don't think this is an area that has traditionally had radionuclide problems, though we will definitely look into that. And like Amy said, we're already on the list for the Groundwater Bureau, the water fair. Unfortunately, I asked for Lamy before I asked for La Cienega, but nothing against Lamy. It's just that they don't have as much of an issue, I think. But they're going to do one in the fall in Lamy, and then the following spring or summer, fall, they'll add La Cienega. But maybe we can get them to do 2 in Santa Fe County, if they get enough pressure. But anyway.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Thank you. Are there other questions? Commissioner Bustamante.
Mr. Chair, thank you. In Madam Chair's absence, and my screen just went out, and I have the information in front of me. The question that I have to start, the La Cienega watershed conditions in 1996, our manager has referenced the legacy compliance. Do we know how many, what percentage we have from that requirement are hooked up to the county water system? There were approvals made for the clarification, or to make it clear for people who may not be aware of that, as stated previously, for individuals who were proposing to build on their property, they had to be within 200 feet of when the water is made available, they had to hook up to it in order to be approved. And I'd like to know how much of that compliance is in order, to what percentage do we have people hooked up to the water system who were required to under those conditions at the time of their development?
Commissioner, I don't have a percentage for you. I think it's probably a low percentage. We have a figure in the report that outlines which parcels are located within 200 feet of the water lines, and a recommendation that be updated as the GIS files with the existing lines are updated. Continue to look at where where those are required. And I think we also recommended outreach with those property owners about voluntary connection, whether you were on that list or not. But as I showed in the PowerPoint, there was a figure that indicates what portion of the planning area is connected to the utility, and it's all in one kind of central, one location. Predominantly, folks aren't not connected to the system.
Thank you. I would be very happy to see what the percentage is for those who were required to hook up at the time of their approval. And it's been quite some time, so I'd like to cross my fingers and hope that the number's higher than we are assuming at this point. The other thing that I will say, very familiar with this particular project, and I'm a community health person. One of those things, this is a traditional historic community that is very active, that is very involved in what they're doing, and that's why we had such a grand turnout for the, what you're referring to as outreach. I'm going to suggest that we sort of change the rhetoric around this particular activity. When you talk about the community of La Cienega, and I'm sure that there are others, my experience has been that really you're doing inreach, especially with something like this. Outreach is usually when you're bringing something to the table and you're providing to the people in that community an asset, be it a service or a commodity, something that people would benefit from an outreach perspective. I will be very clear that people completely felt encroached upon. I was accused of trying to take water from people once I got elected. We are not going to go down that path. The beauty of this is that there is a very strong water quality, water quantity group through the La Cienega Valley Association. Carl has been working this issue. Carl Dickens, for the record, former La Cienega Valley Association president, is now working a water committee, and they show up. People are interested and concerned about their water. I'm going to ask, and I hope that I will have the support of this commission, that all work is done directly with the La Cienega Valley Association and their water committee. I do understand, with all due respect, that they were informed on February 10th that they would be made aware of this presentation today. And when I let them know it was on the agenda, they had not been informed. This is inreach, not outreach. This is, hey folks, we're about to have a conversation about where you live, the water you rely on. It's not a brand new community. The other thing is this is a multi-generational, traditional, historic community with families that have been there for many generations, as far back as, and I'll even say predating the 1600s for those of us who have indigenous Kiris background. Like literally our native tribe is right next door, and there are a few families who you will hear get hot and heavy fast, and I'm trying really hard not to be one of those people. Not that it's, for some reason it hits a passionate point, right? So I speak from that in the interest of doing this right because it matters. This project matters because we can't say we know what we're working with if we don't know what we've got. And it's critical. One of those things on the campaign trail that I shared was burying a chicken. And I'm going to ask for everyone's patience in the moment. But when I was 15 years old, I hatched a chicken in my science class. It died. It was tragic. And Dad said, go bury the damn chicken. I went to bury the chicken, and I dug a hole, and I hit water. And Dad said, go up the hill. I can bury goats on top of each other. I think I've said that in this forum before. The water table is lower, but we can't, and that's an anecdotal thing. We've got 10 wells, you want 50, but now we're going to tell them what we're going to do. I ask respectfully because I truly believe it will make a difference, and I will say it'll make a difference in the quality of the lives of people who live there so that there's more trust built in on how we're all trying to work together to better understand the utility of water in our community. There are people who have been using it for both using groundwater for their small gardens for multiple generations who are being told you can't grow that much food anymore. We have things that we want to really get a strong handle on, and I appreciate people that I see in the room who've worked on those conversations now for decades. So take-home messages. Please, let's work directly. LCVA Water Committee is active. They should be the ones who are having the next conversations in working with you on how they will get the volunteers to put forth their wells. The trust issues are huge, and it does affect quality of life. So I appreciate the efforts. It really comes down to a community relations and trust conversation. And I recognize also that trust goes both ways. I think that I understand that questions about how much people are pumping and what the mutual domestics have done and how things are being reported, et cetera. Those are all good conversations, but they also happen at the community level. And I trust that the moving it to utilities and having hydrologists at the table and people who understand the water availability will make a big difference. The water quality issues, I think it's very important to state for the record, I am an environmental epidemiologist by training. I am concerned about the reports that came out, and I am grateful for the opportunity to have heard about the sampling and where we have found the PFAS in the systems. But what we also know is that there will be, quite likely, and I say likely, a potential that our domestic wastewater septic systems are going to be contributing somewhat to that as well. I say that to make sure that people understand that if they do identify it anywhere near their particular well, some of our wells are all of 63 feet deep. Dad told me before I went, said, this well's only 63 feet, and there was no one else living out here. I'm going to tell you the septic systems are contributors as well. So for those who want to spend a little bit of time even looking into those issues, my big concern is not throwing up the flames and having a community in panic. I want people to feel trust in their community and that we're all working together on these issues. I promised them that I would take the lead in these conversations, and my lead is to ask you to work directly with the community as they are active. So thank you for your good work. And I thank those who are listening online, because I know that they are, for their good work in ensuring that the community is active and involved. That's how we'll make a difference here. So that's all I have, and thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bustamante. Any other comments? Okay. Jacqueline, I see, wants to say a few words.
Yes, Madam Chair and Commissioner Bustamante, we hear you loud and clear. And the scope of this original phase 1 was really more or less an audit of our own housekeeping, more so than it was an outreach program. And so the open house was really to serve the community in a way of announcing that we were beginning this project. And absolutely, we have a lot more work to do, and we recognize fully that we need to engage the community in much more in the future. We needed to start with cleaning our own house, and so that's where we've started.
Thank you, Jacqueline. I know this has been a long time coming, and especially since both Commissioner Hamilton and I have heard about this since the first year of our tenure here. One of the things that we don't have at the moment is we don't have a hydrologist. We have not had a hydrologist. Are you a hydrologist?
No.
Oh, she is. Yes, but Madam Chair, sorry, we did hire a hydrogeologist about 4 months ago, so we do have one on board.
Oh, yay. Yeah. I did not know that. It has been vacant for a very, very long time, and I'm sorry I missed that in the notice of who we exactly hired when it happened. But I'm glad to hear that.
And he's a GIS expert as well, so that's super helpful skill set.
Both of those two things are really important in order to go forward with this work, because without that, we have been tied, so to speak. And so I'm sorry I missed that, but who is the hydrologist and what is his name?
His name, Madam Chair, his name is James Stephen Walker. He goes by Steve, so Steve Walker is his name.
Okay,
And he's a protege of Dr. John Hawley. So that's how I got to know him and got him to apply.
Okay, great. Thank you. Congratulations.
Madam Chair, if I may, I do want to make sure that I clarify that we take the sampling from around the National Guard very, very seriously. I do not mean to minimize it by saying yes, and it is in other sources. That is not the intent. This is very, very virile, if you will. It's everywhere, so please allow me to clarify. It's very serious, and we will be ready to work with the communities. Thank you.
Yes, PFAS is incredibly serious throughout the entire United States, and we are grateful that EPA has at least written a rule on it, and that, you know, there is now some regulation regarding PFAS. I'm going to say thank you to everyone, and I'm happy to see this moving forward because it's a long time coming.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Okay, next we will go to miscellaneous updates from the county manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. We have several updates related to sustainability. First, as was referenced earlier, Earth Day event is being held at the County Fairgrounds on April 22nd from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. The event is family friendly and will include representation from numerous organizations, as well as speakers specialized in rainwater harvesting and gardening, as well as live music. The backyard composting program application deadline has been extended to April 24th, and interested participants can find the application on the Sustainability Division website page from the drop-down menu in the county website landing page. We will also be hosting Solid Waste, in partnership with Sustainability, will be hosting a free tire recycling day and Green Waste Day, as well as a general trash drop-off day in honor of the Great American Cleanup on April 15th at all Santa Fe County Convenience Center locations for individuals who have a valid solid waste permit. So those are sustainability related updates. I did want to make sure that everybody was aware and saw the media coverage in the Santa Fe New Mexican today concerning the county's Matrix program. As many of the board knows, and you'll hear more about this on Friday's special meeting, concerning jail operations. We do have a substance abuse treatment pod within the county where individuals who are interested in receiving counseling and other support services out of general population are housed and are able to support each other, through their efforts to achieve sobriety. At the conclusion of those programs, there is a graduation ceremony, and again, the graduation ceremony that occurred recently, as well as the program itself, was highlighted in the Santa Fe New Mexican. I would very much encourage any of you who haven't had the opportunity to attend to do so. It's very touching to see and hear the stories of our fellow community members and citizens who have struggled for much of their adult life, in many cases with substance abuse disorder, finding strength and showing us strength to continue to move forward and try and address those issues. So again, it's a very, very touching ceremony that I would definitely encourage you to attend should you ever have the opportunity to do so. That's all I have by way of miscellaneous updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. With that, I will move on to matters from county commissioners and other elected officials. I'll start with Justin Green, Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, everybody. So a couple shout outs and some concerns and some great experiences to discuss right now. So the first one is we've had a couple to Public Works, and thank you, James Salazar. We got a phone call. I received a phone call this morning from the folks up in the Nambe area, thanking him for coming out and cleaning out one of the ditches and culverts up there in time for the spring sequia season. So that is this time of year, and so should be some prioritization. It's nice to see that we got ahead of that. At the same time, we also had a little bit of a crisis last week with one of the county roads, Road 113, which happens to be right behind our distinguished Senator Ben Ray Lujan's home, and he received many, many, many phone calls when he returned home on Easter break, which translated to many, many phone calls to me and to county management regarding this. You know, we scrambled and we tried to create a different route for folks. We had everything from emergency management with swift water rescue people standing by the river. The good news is the river's flowing because we have lots of water. The bad news is it's flowing over the bridge. So may we get ahead of this for next year. It ended up as being a very passionate discussion between myself and Senator Ben Ray Lujan, and so I got to know him much closer through this experience. So there was an offer of assistance for all of us to hopefully take him up on for ways to leverage federal help for all sorts of things, including making sure that our bridges are in good shape and that we have the money to do these things. So let's take it for the good as well as the bad. Thank you for scrambling emergency management. Thank you for looking at it. Public Works, I wish we had gotten it done ahead of time, but those things happen. I also did the pilgrimage on Friday and had a great experience. It was my first time doing the hike to Chimayo, and it is one of the most beautiful roadside walks that I've ever done. And so I hope in the next few months and next few years that we can discover ways to work with the BLM and the tribes that border this to create a much safer and year-round experience to walk to do the pilgrimage. In Spain, they use it as a tourist destination, and people do it for non-pilgrimage reasons. I think that this is just as beautiful a location to do that, and other than being sore on Saturday, and I was much healthier and happier for doing that. Lastly, I am concerned by hearing from the folks in the unannexation area, and I ask if we can potentially look at what would be the impacts of a 90-day delay. Could we then get all of the assessments put in place, whether it's the impact on financial impacts, whether it's the public safety impacts, whether it's the utility impacts, and some sort of planning and understanding whether we should carve out some of the areas and what the actual footprint should be. Having two special meetings towards something seems rushed as opposed to finding a regular meeting schedule and having the due process here. And so I appreciate this issue, and I do think that the city has not done its side of the discussion of the bargain, but 90 days to allow for this, really the only reason I've heard for a rush is because of the short-term rental issue. And honestly, I don't think that that's too much of an issue to overcome. I think the other issues and the unintended consequences on affordable housing and on county services and financial impacts, and honestly, whether we're going to get hit with a lawsuit or whether the city is going to participate in this. We have an opportunity to go talk to the city and to talk to those major landowners and see what we can do to work with them in a cooperative way. So that's it for now. Thank you.
Commissioner Hughes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple things. The issue with the house that's causing all the problems in the Arroyo Coyote area of my district is ongoing, and we have set up a public meeting with the sheriff on April 18th at 5:30 at the Sheriff's Department, which is pretty close to where those people live, so it'd be convenient for them to talk about that. The sheriff has been providing extra patrols, and thanks for that. That's very helpful. I think it makes people feel a little bit safer, but they're still pretty uncomfortable because since there's no water in this house, the people who are squatting in the house go out in the neighborhood at night and collect water from the faucets of people who haven't locked them yet. And people, I think, feel very uncomfortable having people wandering around on their property at night collecting water, because who knows what else they're going to do. They're concerned. So along with that, I think it is my hope, and I know Manager Schaefer and I talked about this, that we can bring forward the Lean and Clean condemnation ordinance at our next meeting to start the process, publish title and general summary. For that, I believe that Esteban Sanchez is very close to the final version, so I would really look forward to that. And then finally, not to sound like a broken record, but I think right after that, I believe that the transferable development rights amendments to our code are ready also, and we could do that right after. So lots going on always, and of course in the middle of all this is the issue around Agua Fria Village, which sounds like it's going to be exciting, to say the least. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Hamilton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It would be good if we could address all these issues for the Agua Fria, equitably and mitigate the STR issue by, without aggravating all these other issues. That would be a great thing to do. And would it be possible on the ordinance, Commissioner Hughes, on the housing, the
Lean and Clean,
to get information on that before we can see before we have to actually take action on it, so we can get briefed on it and read it and know something about it?
Yeah, can we ask, Madam Chair, can we ask the county attorney to send that out to all 5 commissioners once the draft is ready to go?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, we can provide that draft. Certainly discussion of the proposed draft will happen in open session, public meeting. But the draft, I think, is the Madam Chair mentioned, or Commissioner Hughes, is close to being finished, so we can send that out soon.
Yeah, I mean, I know we have a process, but over the years, we've actually had discussions about certain things when they're brought to us the day you have to take an action. So over the years I've been a commissioner, we've talked about how good it would be for certain things to be brought because they're substantive, that it's good to bring them early enough for us to get information and then act, right? Not because it's controversial, but because it's substantive. And then Commissioner Green and I had a discussion about it and brought it back to my mind that it would be a really useful thing to do.
Madam Chair and
Yeah.
Commissioners, obviously we work for you and take your direction. There's no urgency relative to that. So the first time it's brought forward, we can caption it, to authorize publication of title and general summary should you feel, see fit to do so. But you can also take the information and, delay that decision after having discussion amongst the entire board and open meeting as to the policy decisions that are presented. So we'll caption it in such a way that you have that flexibility. But again, ultimately, that's the board's decision as to whether you want to have a discussion and then delay action on even just a published title and general summary until a future meeting. But in advance of that, the draft as it is now will be circulated.
Great, that's great, and having options, and it's up, to everybody what they feel comfortable with. I just wanted to bring up the principle and see if we could, move in that direction. And And I think that's everything before Coffee with the Commish, which is going to happen Wednesday, April 19th at 5:30. It's my town hall with my district, everybody who's interested. We're still going to do it virtually this time just because people in my district seem to be pretty comfortable with that. And as the weather gets nicer, I mean, it encourages participation, and as the weather gets nicer, we can even chat about making it in person. But, you know, next Wednesday, a week from tomorrow, come and tell me that everybody's still there and thinking about what needs to be done in the district and the county. Thanks.
Commissioner Bustamante.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Green, happy 100 days. It's 100.
Oh.
Yay.
102 days in on the commission. Grateful to be here. I am having to cut myself short because I really have to go to the ladies' room. Excuse me, too much information right about now. But I want to just mention at the 100-day mark, I will be putting out a newsletter, and actually there'll be the electronic newsletter with a preemptive postcard that will direct people who hadn't already signed up for the communications from my office. Had met with community groups regarding preservation of the land that is that's bordering the county land at La Bajada, and looking for future uses and wanting to get more information on the status of the leases on at the La Bajada Ranch that the county procured a number of years ago, as well as working with our neighbors on the southeastern part of our county in Edgewood regarding some requests that they have, and looking forward to having that conversation with all of you, as well as looking forward to seeing the Clean and Lean, as I hope it's going to do exactly what it sounds like it can do, given that we do also have situations in District 3 that could use that. And in other words, a very similar situation to that that had been shared in Agua Fria Village, where clearly there is illegal activity and they don't seem to have any utilities, though it is within the area that has the utilities, and things have gone a little more awry than the neighbors are comfortable with. And it sounds like this Clean and Lean will allow the county to take some leadership in cleaning it up, and if they don't pay to clean it up, then there's a lien on it, and onward ho. So thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner Bustamante. I want to mention that Commissioner Hughes and I had the honor to meet with EPA from DC on March 30th, and we had a robust discussion about WIP issues and other issues that concern the EPA. They were very happy to come and meet with us, and would like to meet with us again. I just received a email from them thanking us and mentioning that they watched the town hall on April 4th, and many people have requested already a copy or a link to the Zoom link, and so we are working on getting that from DOE, because I think that a lot of the issues that were touched on at the town hall were also things that EPA is concerned with. And then I am also happy to hear about the Lean and Clean ordinance coming forward. I have a message here from Mr. Hollingstaff and Martin Romero at the General Construction Bureau. I completed the inspection at 2500 Lopez Lane. This home cannot function in its current condition due to utilities not being connected, and some of the devices are missing, such as a water heater and furnace. It would be a violation of the 2015 IRC section of sanitation requirement. There is an imminent safety threat to the occupants associated with this property due to the non-functioning smoke detectors and power that is disconnected, which would prevent the occupant from safely exiting the structure. There is also evidence of trash accumulated in the home, which could also cause existing issues for the home. I would refer you to New Mexico AC 14-5-1-12 unsafe structures. If the unsafe condition is existing building, prepared a report identifying the location of the structure and the unsafe condition observed. I think that our lean and clean ordinance could really help us with making sure that this building is torn down and that the property is cleaned up. In regard to the Agua Fria Village, I'm more than happy to move forward with the May 1st meeting, because this is an ongoing issue that we have worked on and talked about for over 6 years. I'm sorry that Mike didn't hear a conversation that was an hour long in his car about us talking about this issue, and I am sorry I didn't understand what he was saying, but I told him very clearly that I had the intention of bringing this back into the county. And I think the issue is that affordable housing is, under their idea, cannot happen, and that is just not true. You can read the community plan. There are places where you can do zoning. We can create the zoning for affordable housing. It is not excluded in the Agua Fria Village plan, and I think that they have come to this conclusion that that only Agua Fria Village is going to be R1. I don't remember Sid Monroe saying everything has to be R1 ever in his presentation. So I find that really kind of offensive, because that is not the intention. And this board all supports affordable housing, including myself. We sold a lot to Mike Lofton so that he could do affordable housing, and I took a hit for that. So I find it really offensive to be told that I'm not supporting affordable housing and that we don't understand what we're doing. We know exactly what we're doing, and the constituents in that area have a deep concern for not wanting to be part of the city, because they have not received any services from the city in the last 15 years. So I think in the 15 years, they'd have enough time to figure out what they were going to do. So that's all I'm going to say at the moment on that. We will move on to other elected officials. Yvonne, do you have any comments from the clerk?
Madam Chair, we would like to just make the announcement that the clerk's office is partnering with the New Mexico Food Depot, and we are going to have a barrel in our office lobby to accept non-perishable goods from April 17th to May 17th, and we appreciate any assistance that people provide. That's it.
Thank you. Daniel, is there any other elected officials online?
Madam Chair, the only other elected official I see online is the undersheriff.
I'm wondering, would the undersheriff like to make any comments? Okay, hearing none, I will go to matters from the county attorney.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I'd request that we now go into executive session to discuss the purchase, acquisition, or disposal of real property or water rights as allowed by Section 10-15-1H8 in MSA 1978, specifically including the potential disposal of county property to another governmental entity.
Do we need to come back into session to make a decision, or can we do concluding business at this moment and go forward?
Yep, Madam Chair, I don't think there's any action after this, this session, so if it pleases the board to conclude, that would be fine.
So can I have a motion to go into executive session and to adjourn the meeting?
Madam Chair, I'd like to motion to go to executive session and adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second, noting that it'll be to cover the matters specified by the county attorney,
Yes, and
no actions will be taken.
yes, and do you have a comment, Commissioner Green?
No, ma'am, I'll be fine.
Okay, so I know. So I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Of course, Madam Chair. Commissioner Camila Bustamante?
Yes.
Commissioner Justin Green?
Yes.
Commissioner Hank Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Anna Hamilton?
Yes.
And Chair Anna Hansen.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for attending. We will see you on our April 25th meeting, if not before. So thank you very much.